you that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
And welcome in to this week's edition of the Weekend Sports Kickoff. I'm Jacob Blair. Along with me is Ryan Elliott, Kramer Sansone, and then special guest this week. He is back. It is Trevor Mater. It's good to have you here, Trevor.
Yeah, just about a 3-month absence, I guess, so to speak. I was just thinking that earlier. I think my last show was like December 1st.
We're getting the band back together, boys.
Yeah, this is kind of like, the Jonas Brothers reunited a a weeks ago.
I would say it's better.
I would
say that this is a greater moment.
It's much better
than
than Jonas Brothers reunited.
I guess you could say that.
And that was kind of my inspiration to come back. I said, you know what, if the Jonas Brothers can get back together, I can join WSK again.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm just kidding, by the way. I
reconciled our differences.
Yeah, there were no differences.
Trevor just needed to get into the class.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that. Trevor just needed a free Friday where he didn't have stuff going on. But yeah, glad to be back in a little different spot. I don't think I've been in this chair maybe ever, because I think I always sat in Kramer's chair.
Yeah, I sat over there last time I was on the show.
Yeah.
So Ryan didn't like that.
Nope. No, he did not.
Yeah, I think I always sat in this chair. So
this has been my chair for the last 2 years.
You know what? A chair's a chair. As long as I'm in the building, I don't really care. So, yeah, I'm good to be back.
Give you a roaming microphone and have you wander to Wells Hall.
I can do it.
Well, Trevor, it is good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Here live on KZLX for the next 3 hours, also on Facebook Live on KNWT. Let's start this week's episode talking about Northwest basketball. There's something big going on this weekend, but before we get to that, real quick recap the MIAA tournament. Northwest struggled in their opening game, but after that, pretty much steamrolled through the rest of it.
I think maybe they needed that. I figured they would get one scare somewhere in that tournament. I did not necessarily expect it to be against Emporia State. I figured it would probably come in the semifinals or the finals, but credit to Emporia State. They were maybe a couple shots away from dethroning Northwest and totally shaking up the MIAA tournament. And then you can kind of tell the Bearcats were maybe a little angry after this close win in the quarterfinals, and they just rolled the rest of the way.
Here's the difference between the 3 games. One, Emporia State was an 8 seed with nothing to lose. They knew they weren't going to get in the tournament. They knew they really didn't have a chance to win the MIAA tournament. They had nothing to lose. Just put it all on the floor and see if you can knock somebody off. The other 2 games, Lincoln was fighting for their life. Lincoln knew they had a chance. If they could make it to the MIAA tournament final, they might have a chance. They knew they had a chance to win the MIAA tournament if they could get over Northwest. So I think they played a little nervous. Washburn, they were already in.
Yeah, Washburn,
they knew they were in, win or lose.
I mean, with the Washburn game, though, it started off pretty darn close, and then Northwest got on a huge run to end not to end the half, but it was like a small run to end the first half. But that second half started, it was just complete lights out on the offense side for Northwest.
What was it, like a 12-point lead at halftime?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and you go back to the Emporia State game, they went 9 of 12 from 3 in the second half, including, I think, 6 of the 9 were contested, and 1 of them was from 35 feet to cut it to 2 with 2 seconds left.
And Julius Jackson was really good.
Yeah, during that game,
38 points.
Julius Jackson just went off, and it just seemed like no matter who could guard him, he'd still make the basket somehow. And it's just, I mean, that's what you do when you play. It's your season's on the line, which it was for him. So.
And this has not been a great shooting Emporia State team. They shot 49%. So, yeah, they played like they had nothing to lose.
Well, and 75% from 3 in the second half is that in an entire half, 75% from 3 never happens.
That's going to win you a lot of games. I mean, I don't know how many teams I know of that have shot 75% from 3 in the second half of a game, other than taking 4 shots and lost. I mean, I agree, Ryan. I think they came out and said, we got nothing to lose. Our only chance of making the tournament is to, win the championship. Right. So let's throw haymakers. We're playing with house money.
Yeah, you might as well.
I mean,
whereas the Lincoln team was fighting for their life, and Washburn knew they were already in.
Yeah, although Washburn, because they were a 2 coming in, right? Were they? I think they were a 2 coming into the weekend, regional wise.
But they were. It was guaranteed that if they, unless they won the title, they were going to be the 3 seed. Yeah. But they were in.
Yeah. And I think Southern dropped from a 5 to a 6 this weekend too, setting up that matchup. Yeah. But yeah, an impressive showing by the Bearcats this past weekend. And Jacob, I know you were at the Washburn game. They had met twice already this season, and each time it seemed like the Bearcats just played them better, and then they just kind of took them behind the woodshed Sunday.
You look at the three Washburn matchups in the regular season. The first one, January 12th, just an 8-point win for the Bearcats here at Bearcat Arena. But then you go to the final game of the regular season. They won that one 72-49 in Topeka. That was a 30-point game with the starters in the game before the reserves came in for the final 5 minutes. But then you go to the MIAA Championship, and this is supposed to be one of the best, the second, third best team in the region. And this was a 35-point game at one point with the starters in the game, but before the end of it, before the Northwest ended up with an 82-53 win. And like Kramer said, it started off competitive. It started off both teams going back and forth, both teams extremely efficient on offense. Then Northwest defense kicked in, and they started hitting everything they looked at and ran away from Washburn. And if you're really any of the rest of the teams in the Central region, you watch that and go, Washburn's supposed to be one of the best teams in the region. How are we going to be able to compete with the Bearcats looking to this weekend?
Yeah.
This team's just got better and better as the season goes along. You know, they've had some close ones along the way. You know, Mo West gave them a run for their money a couple weeks ago, and then you go way back beginning of the year, Northern State took them to overtime, but this has been a pretty convincing team.
Yeah, and I think it was 8 points against Lincoln earlier in the year and 8 points against Washburn the first time they played them as well. And other than that, that's the only games they've had inside single digits.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good. You don't get to 32-0 without being good, obviously, but now we get a fun weekend in Maryville, a busy weekend in Maryville.
Unless everybody else is really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing middle school teams, then they'd probably go 32-0. As
Even
a bad
then,
team.
I don't think
There's some good middle school teams.
Yeah, so now we get to turn our attention to the NCAA Central Regional. 8 teams made the tournament. You look at that bracket, and you get Northwest. They get matched up against Minnesota State, Mankato Northwest at 32-0, Minnesota State at 18-11. That's the 1-8 matchup. You look at the 4-5 matchup. That's St. Cloud State at 22-8, Southern Nazarene 28-5. Northern State and Southeastern Oklahoma State, they're going to match up. Northern State's 26-6, Southeastern is 22-7, and that 3-6 matchup is Washburn at 24-7 and Missouri Southern at 23-7. So a lot of good matchups here, but the one that really Maryville's focused on is the Northwest one against Minnesota State, and they're going to.
Are there any storylines for that game? I mean, is there any storylines we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean
in that game.
Yeah, the obvious one being that Mankato was the team that knocked Northwest out last year as the 8 seed in Maryville, and that was their revenge game against Joey Wittis. That was their championship game. Now I think it comes back around. The storyline here is maybe it's Wittis' turn to get him back.
And this is not a completely different team than the team that lost last year, but it's pretty different.
Yeah,
you know,
and I think it's a different Northwest team. It's a healthier Northwest team, and it's a different Mankato team.
Yeah,
this is not the Mankato team that Northwest saw last year.
No Charlie Brown,
right? And the couple of points that I think a lot of people want to make is there are a lot of people out there that don't think Mankato should even be in the tournament, including. I read this on the message boards the other day. Mankato sent their basketball kids home for spring break. They didn't think they were going to make the tournament. They sent them home for spring break.
Yeah, it was kind of that 8, 9, 10. It was kind of between them and Wayne State, and then I'm forgetting the other team that was there kind of in that 10 spot. And I believe they swept Wayne State this year. They also had a win over Northern State, but then they also got made look silly by Northern State.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you could argue they don't.
Right, and there are people that and I'm not going to make that argument because that's not my job, but there are people that are making the argument that they don't belong in the tournament. And so I think maybe that's something that could be some fire for them going into Saturday. But
they lost their last 2 games. One with Winona State, 84-56, and the last game that they played against Bemidji was 66-56.
Yeah.
But before that, they actually had a good stretch of games where they were winning games, but they finished 18-11 on the season. So I could see how some people can make that argument, but then I can still also see how they deserve to be in here.
I think this is kind of, like I said, it's a lot different than last year, but at the same time, it's similar to last year as far as Mankato's the obvious underdog. They're playing with house money. They got nothing to lose. If they go in and lose by 25 or 30 tomorrow, the narrative isn't probably going to be Mankato didn't deserve to be here. The narrative is going to be, man, Northwest looks really dominant. Yeah. However, you think back to last year, Justin Pitts did not play. I mean, in a late kind of decision, and you could kind of tell the team kind of missed him. They couldn't get a rhythm without him. I don't see anything like that happening tomorrow, obviously, because Justin Pitts isn't here, but the team's been really healthy.
Right. Well, and not only was Justin Pitts not healthy, Chris Dow was playing on a bad ankle. Xavier Kurth hadn't been healthy all year, really his entire career. I mean, so they were having to lean on. They had to lean on Ryan Hawkins, and they had to lean on Ryan Welty. You know, and so I think that this Northwest team this year is as you mentioned, more healthy. I think they're a little bit deeper, and I think that this time around, I think last year you could sort of see the holes in the armor for Northwest. You could sort of see where, okay, they've got a soft spot here, they've got a soft spot here. You know, they struggle when Pitts isn't controlling the game, and I think the Mankato team of last year was a little bit better than the Mankato team of this year. I think all that put together, Mankato is still going to be the underdog, but I think the story is going to be less of how good of a chance does Mankato have to can Mankato stay in the game.
Yeah, and I don't know what the best way for them is to do that, because guess what? If you shut down Joey Wittes, then you've got Trevor Hudgens. Guess what? If you shut down those two, then you've probably still got to deal with Ryan Hawkins. Right. I mean, there's not really – this is last year, and like you said, last couple of years, it was shut down Justin Pitts, which teams struggled to do, and then force them to beat you with Chrissy Boo and Dow, and then 2 years ago, Zach Schneider. This year, you can't just shut down one guy because they've got 2 or 3 other guys that they can say, okay, we'll let these guys beat you. I mean, they could have 2 of the top 10 players in Division II college basketball right now, maybe, with Wittes and Hudgens. Would that be crazy to say?
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. I think Wittes will, at the very least, be a finalist for the Bevo Francis. I don't know that he's going to win it.
I think they're both on the watch list,
right? And there are a lot of guys that are putting up crazy numbers out there in Division II. So you know, because the Bevo is an award that a lot of people just look at numbers for, it's possible that Wittes doesn't get it, but I think he'll be a finalist for it, and I think Hudgens will be right there behind him.
Well, and Hudgens has a couple more years to do that as well. So going to be a fun weekend.
And the other big important thing for this regional and for Northwest is, again, it is here in Maryville and Bearcat Arena. It's going to be a home crowd.
Tickets are already sold out for tomorrow.
Yeah, for tomorrow, and I believe Sunday as well.
Yeah, my mom texted me earlier, and she's like, do you know how to get tickets for tomorrow? And I was like, you should have asked me like last weekend and not 24 hours before game day, because they're sold out.
And being here in Maryville, we're going to have a big day here on KZLX with full coverage of the Central Regional. It's going to start at 11 a.m. with Central Region pregame. That's going to be with Austin McNorton, Andrew Botwinick, Nolan Brooks, and Sam Steinmeier. And then at noon, we're going to send it out to Bearcat Arena, and Trevor Mater and we will be on the call for the first game of the weekend. That's Missouri Southern and Washburn at noon, and then at 2:30 we'll switch over, and Trevor and I will still be on the call for Southeastern Oklahoma State and Northern State. After that game, we'll send it back to the studio for the Central Region Midday Report, again with Austin, Andrew, Nolan, and Sam. After that, we'll send it back to Bearcat Arena with Kramer and Ryan as they will take the call for the Northwest Missouri State game as they take on Minnesota State Mankato at 6 o'clock. And then after that, we will also have the call of the final game of the day with Kramer Sandstone and Andrew Botwinick, and that's Southern Nazarene and St. Cloud State.
There's going to be a lot of water consumed over the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And, of course, we'll be running around at the press conferences as well, trying to get audio and stuff.
Yeah, we're
I think
we're a lot of crazy things.
I think we're
going
to be
on.
busy.
Yeah, you guys have all your KZLX stuff. I get to do one game on KZLX, which I'm excited about. And then I'm taking care of the MIAA network broadcast this weekend as well.
And then we'll be back at it Sunday as well. I will not be here, unfortunately. I have prior obligations that I have to abide by, but I know you guys and you and Kramer and Andrew Botwinick will be on the call Sunday. And then Tuesday night, regardless of who's playing, I don't care if it's Northern State and Minnesota State Mankato, we're going to have the finals Tuesday night at 7 o'clock on KZLX FM. So it's going to be a fun weekend.
The 3 of you guys on the call for that, I'll be looking forward to it.
So, yeah.
It's going to be a crammed little booth we have.
Yeah. Please wear deodorant.
I do.
So it's going to be a fun weekend. And You can catch all those games on X106 or on the TuneIn app on KZLXFM.com. And then you can always give us a follow on Twitter at X106_sports. We're going to be busy this weekend. But you know what? How many other schools get to do this? I mean, there's 7 other schools that are hosting a Division II regional. We don't know their situation or if they do something like this. I know the last couple of years we've had this opportunity, and for whatever reasons we chose not to pursue it. But this year we're going to do it. You can catch all 7 games on X106.
Saturday is going to be fun. There's right now scheduled 11 or 12 hours of coverage of the Central Region tournament, and then that'll continue on Sunday. Sunday we will start coverage at 4 o'clock again with the Central Region pregame show. That'll be with Austin McNorton, Nolan Brooks, and Sam Steinmeier. Then we'll send it out to the arena for the semifinals. Then again on Tuesday. But getting back to the bracket, you look at Northwest at number 1. There's still 7 other teams here. This is March. This is a tournament. Crazy things can happen. But when you look at the 7 other teams, what team looks most dangerous to Northwest?
To me, I think it's Northern State. This is a team that gave Northwest trouble at the beginning of the year. Both teams, I think, have grown a lot since that point. Northern State had some bumps in the road along the way. They play in a tough conference in the NSIC. A lot of really good teams up there, but so I think Northern State is one that obviously I think is on the tip of everybody's tongue. The other one that I look at, and I had a good conversation with John Coffey about this the other day, is Missouri Southern. I think
that's where I was getting
Southern,
ready to go.
Yeah, really talented team. They've got a talented big man down low, and so that's going to be something that I think Washburn's going to have to look out for in the first round. I think that's going to be a fantastic basketball game. But I think Missouri Southern can make a lot of noise if they get the ball rolling.
Yeah, in Missouri Southern is a team that they can shoot the ball really well at times, and I'm super excited for this Washburn matchup that Jacob and I are going to be on the call of tomorrow. Missouri Southern averages 87 points a game. Washburn averages 83 points a game. Going to be a lot of points. Both teams can shoot the ball really well, and I think whoever comes out of that one can pose a threat to Northwest. I know we've kind of seen what they've done to Washburn recently. But like Jacob said, it's March, it's tournament time. The games always mean a lot more. I think back to, was it 2 years ago that Northwest beat Upper Iowa in the regular season pretty convincingly. Then fast forward to regional action, and I mean Upper Iowa gave them everything they had and took it to overtime.
66-64 in overtime. Then they beat Augustana by I think 12.
Who they beat earlier in the year, and then then
it took down to the wire against Southwest Minnesota State.
Came down to a missed 3-pointer if I remember correctly.
55-52.
I think that one team that could possibly be given a run for their money is St. Cloud State, and they could possibly meet them in the second round. They have Gage Davis, who's their NSIC Player of the Year, and they also have Sean Smith, who's the NSIC Defensive Player of the Year. So they have talent on this team. Both are seniors, and both are looking to make an impact. And before we even started this, I watched their preview and stuff for this, and they seemed excited too, and they're talented, and they possibly could give them a run for their money. And
St. Cloud is another team that they play. You mentioned they play in a tough conference again, just like we talked about with Northern. Is that they play in the NSIC, which is historically a good basketball conference. A lot of good teams coming out of that conference between Northern and Mankato, St. Cloud, that kind of thing. And so the other thing that I think that may trip up St. Cloud is that they get a GAC team in the first round, and the NSIC does not see the GAC during the season. They don't know a lot about them. I think both NSIC teams that are going to be the higher seeds, you talk about St. Cloud at the 4, Northern at the 2, they both have GAC teams. So teams that they're unfamiliar with, teams that you don't really have a whole lot of common opponents. I think that could be a lot of fun on both sides.
Do you think, just kind of going back to Northwest, and going back to last year, do you think that's something that maybe Coach McCollum has talked about much this week, as far as, hey guys, for those of you that were here and remember how that felt? I mean, because it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Northwest was going to come out of that region and they were going to at least give a run at the national title. And then, boom, their season's over on Saturday, and we're watching the Sunday and Tuesday of regionals that we're hosting that we didn't really, It just kind of took the wind out of the sails.
Right, and I think the thing that you think about, is when you look at 2017, 2 years ago, you had that big name. You had that, you had to play Augustana. That was the one. That if you didn't want Augustana to get to the Elite Eight at their home floor on the Sanford Pentagon and make that run. And so you knew you had the big name in the region. Here, last year, it didn't feel like you had the big name. Augustana wasn't really around anymore. Northern State had played well, but they had beaten them by, I think, 13 earlier
12
in
or
the year.
13.
You felt like, okay, you've got control of this region. And I think maybe there was a false sense of security there that they got kind of lulled into. And now all of a sudden, again, you don't have the other big name that you look at, but now you are the big name.
Well, and I think this team is hungry too. I know Coach McCollum said, I don't want to make memories. I want to make history. Teams don't normally go undefeated to a national championship. I think Findlay in 2009 was the last D2 team to do it, or 2008.
Something along those lines.
I can't remember. So they're going to have the target on their back, and I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder as well. But it's going to be a fun weekend in Maryville, regardless of what happens.
And you look at the NCAA Division II tournament, all 8 regions will be playing this weekend. The winner of those regions will head to the Elite Eight, that this year being played in Evansville, Indiana. 2 regions are starting play today. All the regions will start tomorrow, but that's the South Central region and then the West region. And right now, the first game of the tournament is underway as St. Martin's is taking on Concordia out of California. Right now, about midway through the first half of that game, St. Martin's is up 17-11. So the first game of the tournament's underway, guys.
Yeah, and that's a 3-6 matchup, and then later on, after that game concludes, Seattle Pacific will take on Chaminade. So I wonder, why do they do them on Friday? That's kind of different, that there's only like 2 regions that do them all on Friday and then the rest on Saturday.
Yeah, it just the way things set up, I guess.
Yeah, and as those regions, they'll play their semifinals tomorrow while everyone else plays their regional quarterfinals, and then their regional finals will be on Monday while everyone else waits till Tuesday. So just an interesting schedule. But again, Saturday starts the Central region here, and we'll again have all of those games on Saturday covered right here on KZLX.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. We're going to be busy. A lot of cough drops and not much sleep, but hey, it's why we do this, right?